I'm Frank B. Turner. I was born and raised, actually I was born in Atlanta at Emory University, but we were living in Covington at the time. But I have lived here most all my life, except when I was away from the university and then 7 years in the Navy. But then came back here in 1970. Well, it's called 12 Oaks now because it's a bed and breakfast, but it had no name when I was a kid. They called it the Big House. Let's go down to the Big House. And at one time there was a tennis court right over here, and they go down to the Big House and play tennis. It had a grass court. And Mama called it Whitehall, and then somebody else came and called it something else. Now it's 12 Oaks. I moved here when I was 10. Granddaddy came here from Milledgeville in 1902 and helped start Covington Mill. And then I moved here in 1950 when I was 10. The original building was called the Cedars. I think it had 4 square columns across the front. And Granddaddy Turner, N.S. Turner III, and N.S. Turner bought this place in 1903 and did all these additions and put the 3rd floor on and that sort of thing. And he put on, as I've said earlier, a permanent roof, a terracotta roof. But one of the later owners wanted to do something in the 3rd story. They couldn't get the stuff up there, so they took the roof off and let the stuff in with a crane, and they didn't know how to put the tiles back. So the roof leaked, he left town, water came in, and all that floor was just about destroyed, and the 2nd floor from rainwater coming in. The next lady had to put a new roof on it, and it's now got an asphalt shingle roof on it. When I was a kid, where there's a barber shop now, that concrete block building between, right on the square, and that was an ice cream parlor in there. And I went to the movie theater, which was on the square, and saw The Thing. And James Arness was this big monster, scared me so bad. On the square, there just wasn't that many. You could go to the drugstore, City Pharmacy, People's Drugstore, an old drugstore called Vinings Drugstore, Evans Drugstore. There were quite a few drugstores around the square before all the chains came in and put them under. There were 2 depots in Covington. The big one over there by, on the north, where the Georgia Railroad was, which is now the Southern, I think. And very interesting. You know why that depot is so far out of town like that? So it'd be by the railroad track.
That's a good idea.
There was one right behind the courthouse. There was a beautiful little depot, the Central Georgia Depot. And then Central went all the way to Porterdale. Porterdale kept it in business when they were business. And then it stayed for quite a few years when Williams Brothers Lumber Company was out there shipping lumber out. When they both shut down, there wasn't any need for it anymore. It's just called the living room, but it was the fancy living room. On Easter, you may come in here at Christmas, and maybe a Christmas tree. And the Christmas tree is usually in the back hall, but there may be a Christmas tree here one year. But Easter, people would eat and then come in here. A lot of people sit around. But it was mainly the room that you used when the preacher came. It was the place where you came, the fancy sitting room. It would be fun on Christmas and Easter and places like that. Everybody would join together and generally be fairly nice to each other. The woodwork's the same, the fireplace is the same, the furniture's all different, yeah. Mm-hmm. And all these were coal fireplaces. They were not wood fireplaces, they were coal. Put coal in them. And you can crawl up under the house and see where the little gaps in the bottom of the fireplaces. You can open up and the ashes will go down there and get out of the way. You didn't have to haul the ashes out. They just went up under the house. It used to be fun to crawl up under there, see if there was any goblins or anything up in there. There was a library, bookcases all along that western wall, all the way across and up, I guess, 8 feet tall. It was very Victorian with all that black, with all this wood out there. I had a banister was shaped like a bell, and it was painted black. All of it was black. Not the banisters, but the railings. Yeah. Granddaddy had taken down the staircase. It came right across from the dining room door, and it had a landing, and it turned and came down. You could walk right down it into the dining room door. Mother wanted it back like it had been, so they took that off and put that newer post back. And you can see it's different from the others upstairs. It was painted when I was a kid. All out there was Oriental wallpaper. Somebody came in here, one of the later owners, and painted everything white. It was like being in a refrigerator. It was just, there wasn't a bit of color in the house. And it was interesting. Of course, it's air conditioned now. It's just beautiful in here. But there was no air conditioning. It didn't get too hot because you had the high ceilings. But in summer it would get hot, and Mom wanted air conditioning, so they put an air conditioner in her bedroom upstairs. And the house only had a 60-watt panel, 60 watts. So when she ran that air conditioning, you couldn't use the stove in the kitchen. It had a fan in the kitchen, but that was all. But I mean, no, people were used to it back then. You didn't know. I mean, I can remember when they air conditioned churches and old lady, I'm not going in there, it's too cold. Used to be a big mirror there with a thing on the bottom full of old National Geographics. My bedroom was the one on the northwest corner over there. I can look on the wall on the east side, and you can see where you shoot a BB gun into the wall. This is plaster, so you could shoot in there without a lot of damage, but it was right there. Neat room because you could sleep. There was a sleeping porch behind it. In the summer we slept out on that sleeping porch. Yeah, all this was it was just one great big room. This room and this room was finished with sheetrock and had radiators in them, because this is where my dad and his sisters were tutored. The tutors would come here. They went into school, so they were tutored in there. But then the back two rooms were nothing but 2x4s. And the attic, a stairwell that went to the top of the house. When you went back here, as I said before, these doors went into rooms that were just 2x4s. And open, it had storage stuff junked up here. Had old records, 78 records with recordings just on one side. But it was a good place to roller skate. Big couch across there, and the television sat right there facing the door. That's the only television we had, was right there. That was my brother. By the time we moved here, he was 18 and already off at Georgia Tech, so he wasn't here very often. Oh boy, they redid Mama's bedroom. This was a bathroom, but it wasn't this nice. It was pink. But my father, who was mayor in the late 1950s, he was born in this room and died in this room. When my grandmother lived here, she was in the bed, and the bed was here. We'd come visit her and write notes and stick them right up under here. Since somebody was here once before, we found some of them where you'd say, came to see Mama Jewel on such and such a day. We had a gun, Schifferow, wasn't quite that pretty, but it was mahogany. And Daddy sent it off and had me a gun cabinet made. I still got it home. They just ripped it apart and made me a gun cabinet. It's real nice. This is really nice. None of this was here. There were just wide steps here that went to the ground. When my uncle built that house, they found a property line. But I mean, to me, when I was playing, it was all the same, because I had an uncle here and an aunt there, and we lived here. All the decking, there was a small deck that Daddy built, must have been 40 by 40, and it was poured concrete deck. They've added lots of decking back then, a pergola, that sort of thing. Tree here, many more pecan trees. And the maid came one day and said, I've been seeing a man walking in the pecan trees out there. And Daddy said, that's my daddy. He used to walk in the pecan trees. She said, really? He said, I've seen him before too. So, he'd been dead for years. Well, this house, of course, and a lot of fine folks working, and most of my associates have been with city employees, and they're all truly outstanding folks. One thing that makes Covington special is the electorate. By and large, they have elected good quality elected officials in the city of Covington, and I was proud of all of them. There were one or two that we couldn't be real proud of, but everybody, they made good decisions, and I appreciate the electorate for doing that, because they are the people. That's the city. I mean, the people don't realize that. They think of the mayor and the council run the city. Y'all are the ones that do the work and give them something to rubber stamp, but you are the city. You had to think about people who made Covington what it is today. And there are two, basically, that I want to mention. I want to recognize Bill Dobbs and Roy Varner. They each ran to be chairman of the Board of Commissioners. Roy won, Bill lost. People in Covington weren't going to vote for Bill because he was the mayor and they didn't want to lose him being the mayor. But you would think, being opposite people in political, they turned out to be the closest people, and Newton County grew when they were here. It was fantastic, the things they could do. I went to a meeting one time with Mr. Roy. Bill and I went up to Conyers for him to speak about Covington. He never used the word Covington. He never used the word Newton County. He talked about our community, our community. It wasn't to say everything was our community. And they just brought people together. They were nice guys, and we appreciate them. They did a world of things for this community.
Mr. Frank, I want to say I thank you so much for taking time today to show us your old home place. It's been such a pleasure, and we're looking forward to touring some other homes and knowing that you have that historic knowledge in your brain. Where's another house we need to start off with?
It used to be called the Bradshaw House, but the one on North Anderson Avenue is the address for it. Then the guys that have it now really made it a fantastic place. Drink lots of water and walk slow.